All right, I'm here with Joe, who is the founder of RevPilots. Joe, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. So you recently had a SaaS company acquired, and I'm super excited to talk about that. But before we dive into that, do you want to just give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in startups doing sales mostly for the last 12 years. I had a SaaS company I sold back in 2021, and then recently sold a SaaS product on MicroAcquire in the past month. So mostly just early stage startups for sales hire, that sort of thing. And now I'm the founder of a company called RevPilots, which is a marketplace for sales talent, specifically fractional sales talent and sales talent for startups.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, sales reps are, they're hard to find. Good ones.
Good ones. You can find lots of salespeople.
Yeah, I've been there. Okay, so the startup you sold, I'm looking at it right now, Renewal Tracking. As I pulled this up and I'm reading the headline, get notified before your subscriptions renew. Save your business thousands of dollars by cutting wasted spend. I am subscribed to so many different SaaS products personally and on our business that I just forget about. So I'm really interested in this. So I guess my first question is, what made you build this product? Was it like a personal problem like mine or?
Yeah, so I had this concept to do like a new version of G2, kind of like a nerd wallet for SaaS. And I thought I needed a product to keep track of everyone's software, because when we were doing customer research, we kept hearing that people, like what you just said, just too many products, couldn't keep track of it. And so I kind of galaxy brained myself into thinking I needed to build this SaaS product to help me with this content site. And then we just built it, got customers immediately because, like you said, the problem's pretty clear, and kept growing it. And it's a good product. It's got a very clear value proposition.
Yeah, it's very clear. And I like that because we look at a lot of startups at acquire.com, not MicroAcquire. And I heard you mention that.
Sorry, I'm old school. I used it back in the day.
I do. I still have the mural on the back of me, but yeah, I mean, it's a clear value prop, and especially right now, as a lot of businesses are looking to be more efficient with spend, I think it's a great product. Haven't used it, but I might. But getting over to the acquisition, I'd love to talk about that. So you built the product, you got some customers, things are going pretty well. What made you decide to sell it?
So for me, I think it was just a matter of founder market fit. The product was good and getting good traction, but RevPilots was getting a lot more traction for me, and the deal sizes were much larger, and there seemed to just be a ton of organic demand for RevPilots, whereas Renewal Tracking, that was a brand new product. I didn't have a network to sell to that like I did with RevPilots, and we were getting big companies. We had Fortune 500 companies. We had companies in Pakistan reach out to us for Renewal Tracking. So that's kind of the direction I went with that product, and it's cool. It's a good one.
That's awesome. I think founder market fit. This is probably an argument for Twitter one day, but I think founder market fit is more important than product market fit, because if you truly have founder market fit and it's something you're passionate about, I assume you're passionate about sales. You've been in sales, about sales, and that leads to unique insights. And like you just said, you enjoy that company, I assume, more. And that just helps you go farther and not give up and not, sell short. So that's awesome that you were able to, have the self-awareness that, maybe this isn't the business I want to run for the next 10 years. Okay. So let's keep going down the journey. What led you to acquire.com? What made you decide to list on?
So before acquire.com, it was MicroAcquire, and I actually used it for my previous SaaS company. And I knew I just had to come back because it would generate a ton of inbound interest quickly. And so I went on the website, signed up, listed Renewal Tracking, and then had a ton of interest early on.
Oh, so you sold 2 startups on acquire.com.
So the first one we didn't sell. It was really early days when you were doing everything, I think.
You remember that?
Yeah. And we had a very niche SaaS product. And we had a ton of interest on your site. And then we had people just randomly inbounding on LinkedIn to me about the product. So it was a good experience then. But then I came back and I was like, I have to do renewal tracking because I know the types of buyers and how much it's grown. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Nice. That's great to hear. Well, I'm glad both worked out. Okay, so you're live on Acquire, and it's the first like 2 weeks. What happens?
So it was actually really bad timing because I think it went live Friday and then everything happened with Silicon Valley Bank that weekend. And so the first 24 hours, I was like, shit, like we just got like unlucky with timing. And then like 2 days later, it was just an influx of people checking out the product and asking questions. And then I think like within 7 days, we had an LOI. So yeah, it was just straightforward. It was easy. I think easy is a really good way to describe it. Didn't have to do much to get started and then had tons of qualified people knocking on the door.
Nice. LOI in 7 days. That's well done. Well done on that. How did you locate the buyer that fast? How did you know? Did a buyer just come in with the right price? Did you get along well with a certain buyer? What made you pick the buyer so quickly?
Yeah, the new owner is great. We vibed. He was very reasonable, asked good questions. We got on a couple calls to talk things through. I was as transparent as possible, and we just kind of moved from there. It was quick to get things moving in the right direction.
Nice. One like odd data point that I've been meaning to pull up for just people on Acquire is sometimes the person who puts out like the first LOI typically is the buyer of the startup, even if there's many different LOIs. I don't know if was this the case in your situation?
So the first, yeah, I believe so. I don't know if someone just verbally gave an offer that was way too low. They were just kind of, seeing what they could get. But it was the first like official serious LOI, not just like a verbal type of thing. Like we want to move forward.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's the individual that's like most excited about the business, but by no means am I saying, accept the first LOI, you want to see all of them through.
Yeah. You can often tell by the questions they ask how serious they are versus just kind of tire kickers. And he was serious, and he, I think, also shared the vision of where this could go.
Yeah. And another thing I see too is people, and this is maybe something to just avoid, and I'm sure you know this, but people who just who send out premature LOIs. So like they haven't asked the right questions yet. They really haven't dove into the business with you. You haven't spoken with them. I do not recommend signing those LOIs because you want to do as much due diligence as you can up front. What I mean by that is, you get to know the buyer, he asks good questions. And so when you sign the LOI, you have an understanding of, what's going to come next. You have a plan, you have a strategy, rather than just blindly signing an offer and then potentially you lose traction with other buyers. So
you can tell with good questions early on, like if they're asking smart questions and kind of like digging into things, you can tell how serious they are versus just kind of like some vanity stuff that they might just be generally curious about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay. So you signed the LOI and now you're moving into due diligence. How did that process go for you?
It was pretty straightforward. Because I had sold a SaaS product in the past, I kind of knew to just keep everything organized from Mixpanel to Google Analytics to customers. It just wasn't that complicated, I think, because I spent some time up front organizing it, and we just went through. We had scheduled calls to go over specific things, and the buyer was also organized and had a structured process on his end. So it was, I think, mutually, we both kind of did a good job.
That's awesome. That's really good advice, because I talk to founders sometimes where they'll have, multiple different, products all in the same, Stripe account or AWS account. They got to pull it out. So having it all in, easily transferable accounts just makes the whole, transition so much easier. And then what you just brought up, I think is great as well. So on the larger side of acquisitions, one great question to always ask is like, do you have, due diligence, like plan, schedule, anything? And it's typically just like a list of, sensitive questions that you'd be entering into after you sign the LOI, but it shows basically the experience, of the buyer pretty quickly before you sign an LOI. So it sounds like you found a good buyer. Okay. So just kind of moving down the tracks here. So, you go through due diligence, everything, worked out well. Did you do any sort of like transition agreements or anything like that?
It might have been in the purchase agreement. I don't know if there was like a specific transition agreement, but it was all just like passing along logins, transferring domains, that type of stuff. There really wasn't anything too complicated.
Nice. Well, I mean, smooth acquisition. I mean, I'm kind of out of good questions at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any horror stories to share with this one. I think one thing we probably didn't go over is like buyer founder market fit for the product too is really important, because if you have a software product and the person has no technical ability or their co-founder doesn't, it's just going to cause a lot of headaches for them, or they're not going to know the right questions to ask. And, they just might be setting themselves up to fail. So he has a product background, and, it was kind of just a really easy baton handoff to him because he knows what he's doing. I've already seen him make some changes to it and it looks good. I was like, why didn't I think of that?
Nice. Well, that's good to hear. You make something and then you see it get improved. So I guess, that leads, kind of maybe to my, one of my last questions is just, what are some of like the main, learnings, that you would share with someone who's looking to sell their startup today? They list on, acquire.com, what should they do to prepare? What should they expect? What comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, have a reasonable price in mind. Buyers aren't stupid. I think that would probably be one of the first things, because that kind of dictates what people think. Be really organized with all your documentation, whether it's, customer lists, logins, the tools that you use, whatever it is, so the buyer knows what they're getting. And then also know it's a two-way street. Just because someone shows interest doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of time with them. Trust your instincts when it comes to dealing with a buyer, because some people could waste your time. It's kind of no different than like a sales process if you're selling software. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. The hard part's usually just getting the buyers and getting the qualified interest. And that's why I really like acquire.com.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I would agree. I would say, the more you prepare, like as you go live and just get all that information up front, it increases your chances of getting acquired by so much, because buyers are looking at tons of different startups. And so if you have all that information readily available, it'll increase like their chances of being interested in getting on a call with you, diving deeper into the business. And then when you are on that call, you kind of get past some of the basic questions that they were going to ask anyways. And then it also shows just some more, like you said, it's a two-way street. You said, buyer market fit, but there's also seller market fit too. A lot of buyers don't want to work with, like, I got to get all this information. I got to, like, if I actually move forward with this, are we going to be able to get over the finish line? So, giving buyers that confidence, and it's really about, de-risking the acquisition for the buyer. One of the best ways to do that is to be prepared, have the information that they're going to probably want to see, like a transition plan, P&L, commonly asked questions. All that stuff can make, a world of difference.
Yeah. And I think one thing also is always to suggest maybe like if you have a roadmap for the product, they could let them take a look at it so they can see the potential, or if there's a customer acquisition strategy that's been working where you could continue to invest in, and they see the potential there. I think that's always going to help them, because pretty much everyone who's going to buy something is going to want to grow it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Well, I mean, that was just a smooth acquisition, Joe. Right on.
Sorry, no more stories.
I want to hear a little bit about RevPilot though. Tell me more of that.
Yeah, sure. So it's a managed marketplace. We connect startups and SMBs, and sometimes even some very large companies, with different types of sales talent. So it could be a fractional sales manager, it could be full-time sales talent, and then we also do sales consulting, whether it's founder coaching for sales stuff, or just reworking your entire sales process and helping you figure things out. It's going well. I've been doing that for about a year now, and companies seem to benefit a lot from it. And I think it's just because a lot of the people we work with are technical founders, and they're really good at product, but they're not good at go-to-market and sales.
That could be a great add-on for just a lot of, founders, even before they go to market, where, go to RevPilot and, figure out, your sales process, increase revenue, and that maximizes your exit. So I love it, Joe. I guess anything else were you going to say something?
No, I just said thank you. No, I don't really have anything else to add. I just really like what you've built. I always try to recommend it. I know I was a testimonial on the website, and I get messages on LinkedIn from time to time from people who want to ask about my experience. And like, it's legit. Like, you have to, if you're selling your startup, you'd be crazy not to list it on acquire.com.
I appreciate that. We'll make that into a commercial. All right, Joe. Well, if people want to get to know you, or just hear more about your story, or check out RevPilot, where should they go?
Yeah, so you could go to RevPilots.com. You can also find me, Joe Benjamin, on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Right on. I'll put that in the show notes. Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on, and congrats again on the acquisition. And I'm rooting for you in RevPilots.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Cheers, man.